You just landed. You survived a 9-hour flight. You're exhausted. All you want to do is collect your luggage and get to your hotel. Then an immigration officer steps in front of you. Sir, can I see your phone? No warning, no explanation, no right to refuse without consequences. They take your phone, unlock it, and spend the next 45 minutes scrolling through everything. Your messages, your photos, your social media, your search history, every single thing you've ever done on that device. And here's what most travelers don't know. You cannot legally refuse. If you refuse, they can deny you entry into the country, not detain you temporarily, not ask you to come back later, deny you permanently. Even if you have a valid visa, even if you've visited a dozen times before, this is happening right now, every single day, at airports around the world. And the reasons immigration officers are checking phones have expanded dramatically in 2026. 8 specific reasons they're looking. For 8 things that can destroy your trip before it even begins. The last reason on this list, it's the one that immigration attorneys are warning their clients about right now. And when you hear it, you'll understand why phone searches have become routine at borders worldwide. Stay until the end. This information could save your next trip. Number 8. Verifying your stated purpose of travel. Every traveler fills out an arrival card. Business trip, tourism, visiting family. Simple enough. But immigration officers have become increasingly skeptical of what people claim. Here's why your phone becomes the first tool they reach for. If you declare you're traveling for tourism, but your phone is full of business emails, corporate presentations, and Zoom meeting confirmations for the next week, that's a contradiction. And contradictions trigger deeper investigation. A consultant flying into Canada declared tourism on his arrival card. An immigration officer noticed his phone had dozens of work emails, client communications, invoice drafts, meeting invitations scheduled during his supposed vacation. He wasn't trying to deceive anyone. He just didn't disconnect from work properly. But the officer saw it differently. He was questioned for 2 hours, eventually admitted he planned to attend a business meeting. Canada denied him entry for misrepresenting his purpose of travel. But here's the twist that catches people off guard. Officers aren't just checking your email. They're looking at your calendar apps, your location history, your recently visited websites. If your browser history shows you researching job opportunities in that country, or apartment rentals, or local school districts, that paints a picture that contradicts, "I'm just here for vacation." Your phone tells a story. Immigration officers have become very skilled at reading it. The lesson? Make sure your digital footprint actually matches what you declared. And if you're a workaholic who can't disconnect, at least clean up your phone before you land. Number 7. Detecting signs of human trafficking or exploitation. This one is darker than most travelers expect. Immigration agencies worldwide have made combating human trafficking a top priority, and phones have become one of the most powerful tools in that fight. Officers are trained to look for specific indicators in a traveler's phone that suggest someone might be a victim or a perpetrator of trafficking, messages from third parties that control the traveler's movements, photos that suggest exploitation, conversations about being managed or controlled, evidence of coerced travel, lack of personal identity documents combined with suspicious communication patterns. A young woman arriving in the UK had a phone full of messages from someone referred to only as manager. The messages contained travel instructions, location check-ins, warnings about what to say at immigration. The officer who checked her phone recognized the pattern. Immediately, she was a trafficking victim. She didn't even fully understand her situation. The phone check potentially saved her life. But here's where this gets complicated for regular travelers. Officers are looking for these patterns broadly. Sometimes innocent communication gets flagged. A young person traveling alone with messages from a parent who is overly controlling can sometimes trigger suspicion. A worker traveling on behalf of an employer who communicates through a third party can raise flags. If you're traveling alone, especially if you're young, and your phone shows heavy communication with someone who appears to control your movements, expect questions. Be prepared to explain your situation clearly and calmly. This isn't about catching you doing something wrong. It's about protecting vulnerable people. But understanding what triggers these checks helps you navigate the process without unnecessary delays. Number 6. Checking for connections to terrorist watch lists. This is the one that makes people uncomfortable to even discuss. Immigration officers have direct access to international terrorist watch lists and databases. When they check your phone, one of the things they're looking for is any connection, even indirect, to individuals or organizations flagged in those systems. A contact in your phone who happens to be on a watch list, a group chat that includes a flagged individual, a social media connection to someone under investigation, even a single message thread with a person of interest can trigger a full secondary screening. A graduate student flying into Germany had a WhatsApp group from university. One member of that group had been flagged by German intelligence for suspected extremist sympathies. The student had no idea. He'd never spoken to that person outside the group, but the connection existed on his phone. He was detained for 6 hours, interviewed extensively about his relationship with the flagged individual. Eventually, released, but his entry was delayed significantly and his visit was monitored. But here's what makes this especially frustrating. You often have no way of knowing who is on these watch lists. They're classified. They're not published. You can't check if someone in your contacts is flagged before you travel. The only way you find out is when an immigration officer finds the connection on your phone. The practical takeaway: keep your contacts clean. Remove people you don't know personally. Leave inactive group chats. And if you travel internationally frequently, periodically review your digital connections. Because one person in your phone could become everyone's problem. Number 5. Investigating immigration fraud or overstay patterns. Immigration agencies share information across borders now, more than ever before. If you overstayed a visa in one country, other countries know about it. And when you arrive at a new border, officers are checking your phone to build the full picture of your travel history and intentions. A man from India had overstayed his tourist visa in the United States by 3 weeks 2 years prior. He later applied for entry into Australia. The Australian officer checked his phone and found location data, social media posts, and photos that confirmed his presence in the US well beyond his visa expiration. He was denied entry, not because of the old overstay alone, but because his phone provided undeniable proof of exactly how long he stayed and what he was doing during the overstay period. But here's the twist that catches even careful travelers. Location data on your phone is incredibly precise. Google Maps history, Apple location services, fitness app tracking. These apps record where you were, when you were there, and how long you stayed. Even if you deleted your social media posts, even if you didn't tell anyone, your phone knows exactly where you were every single day. Officers are becoming increasingly sophisticated at pulling this data. And it tells a story that contradicts whatever you claimed on your visa application. If you have any history of immigration issues, be aware that your phone carries evidence you may not even realize exists, and that evidence can follow you across borders for years. Number 4. Screening for drug trafficking activity. Drug trafficking is one of the primary reasons phones get checked at borders, and the sophistication of what officers look for has increased dramatically. They're not just looking for obvious messages saying, pick up the package at gate 3. They're looking for encrypted messaging apps that seem inconsistent with a traveler's profile, unusual communication patterns, contacts saved under vague nicknames, calls to numbers in known trafficking corridors immediately before or after travel. A young man flying into Thailand had a phone full of encrypted messages on an app called Signal. The messages themselves were deleted, but the app's presence, combined with his travel, history, and the timing of his trip, raised enough suspicion for officers to question him extensively. He was a perfectly innocent traveler who simply valued his privacy, but in the eyes of the immigration officer, the pattern looked suspicious. And here's the reality that privacy advocates struggle with. Drug couriers have become extremely sophisticated. They use burner phones, they delete messages, they use encrypted apps. Officers know this, so they've learned to flag the very tools that privacy-conscious people use for legitimate reasons. If you use encrypted messaging apps heavily, and you travel to countries with strict drug enforcement, expect questions. Have a clear, calm explanation for your communication habits ready. Because in 2026, having a phone that looks like it's hiding something is almost as suspicious as actually hiding something. Number 3. Identifying potential visa. Overstay intentions. This is separate from past overstays. This is about detecting whether you're Planning to overstay right now. Immigration officers are trained to read digital indicators of intent, and your phone reveals more about your intentions than you probably realize. If you declared a 2-week tourist visit, but your phone shows you just signed a 6-month apartment lease in that city, that's a problem. If your messages include conversations about starting a business locally without a work visa, that's a red flag. If your email contains job applications to companies in that country, officers will notice. A woman flying into New Zealand declared a 1-month holiday. An officer checked her phone and found emails about remote work arrangements with a US company, messages discussing moving her belongings internationally, and searches for schools in Auckland for her children. She wasn't planning to overstay exactly, but she was planning to stay far longer than declared, and her phone made that intention crystal clear. Officers have learned that people planning to overstay often have digital evidence of long-term planning scattered across their devices. Lease searches, school enrollment inquiries, banking setup instructions, shipping quotes for personal belongings. Your phone is an open book, and immigration officers have become expert readers. Number 2. Monitoring social media and online activity. Social media has become one of the most powerful screening tools available to immigration officers, and they don't need your password to see most of it. But when they check your phone, they go deeper than your public profile. They look at your private messages, your deleted posts, your drafts, your liked content, your followed accounts, your group memberships, everything. A political activist traveling into Hungary posted critical comments about the government on Twitter 2 years prior. He deleted the posts, changed his handle, thought it was gone. But the posts were cached, archived by third-party services. And when the Hungarian immigration officer checked his phone, they found screenshots saved in his gallery from the original posts. He was denied entry. Hungary classified him as a potential political threat based on his social media history. But here's what makes this especially relevant in 2026. Governments worldwide have expanded their authority to screen social media as a condition of entry. The United States started requiring social media handles on visa applications years ago. Now countries like Canada, Australia, and the UK are implementing similar screening protocols. And officers aren't just checking what you posted. They're analyzing who you follow, what you engage with, what algorithms have been showing you. The pattern of your online behavior reveals your beliefs, associations, and intentions far more clearly than any single post ever could. If you have controversial political views, if you follow accounts that certain governments consider extremist, or if your online activity could be interpreted as threatening to national security, your social media presence can become a serious border obstacle. The uncomfortable truth: in 2026, your online life is part of your travel profile, whether you like it or not. But the final reason on this list is the one immigration attorneys are warning about most urgently right now. It has nothing to do with drugs, nothing to do with terrorism, nothing to do with visa fraud. It's something that affects almost every single traveler. Something completely legal, something you probably do every single day without thinking about it. And when you hear why this is now triggering entry denials worldwide, you'll understand why phone searches have become mandatory at so many borders. This is the one that changes everything. Number 1. Verifying digital identity and detecting synthetic identities. Here's where 2026 gets genuinely unsettling. Identity fraud has exploded. Synthetic identities, fake documents, AI-generated photos, and digitally manipulated passports have become so sophisticated that traditional verification methods are failing. Immigration agencies have responded with a new protocol, cross-referencing the digital identity on your phone with the identity on your passport. They're checking whether your phone actually belongs to you, whether your face matches the device's stored biometric data, whether your contacts, your emails, your photos, and your accounts are consistent with the identity you presented at the border. A man arrived in Singapore with a valid passport. Everything looked legitimate, but when the officer checked his phone, the biometric data didn't match. The phone's face recognition system had been trained on a different face. The email account linked to the phone belonged to someone else. The photos on the device showed a completely different person in personal settings. He was using a stolen identity. The phone check caught him in minutes. But here's what makes this relevant to every single traveler, not just fraudsters. Officers are now checking whether your phone matches your passport as a standard verification step. If you recently changed phones and haven't fully migrated your identity data, if your phone's biometric profile doesn't match your current appearance, if your accounts show inconsistencies, you can get flagged. A woman who had recently undergone significant weight loss arrived at a Canadian border. Her passport photo was 2 years old. Her phone's face recognition had been updated to her current appearance. The mismatch between passport and phone biometrics triggered additional screening. She wasn't doing anything wrong, but the system flagged her because the two versions of her face didn't match closely enough. In 2026, your phone isn't just a communication device, it's an identity document. And immigration officers are treating it as one. This is why phone checks have become routine, because in a world of deep fakes, synthetic identities, and AI-generated documents, your phone is often the most reliable way to verify that you are actually who you say you are. And refusing to hand it over doesn't just delay your entry, it raises immediate suspicion that you have something to hide. 8 reasons. 8 ways your phone becomes the most powerful tool an immigration officer has, from verifying your travel purpose to detecting trafficking victims, from screening terrorist connections to catching identity fraud. Your phone carries more information about you than your passport, your visa, and your arrival card combined. The reality of traveling in 2026 is this: digital privacy and border crossing don't mix the way they used to. Officers have the authority, they have the training, and they have the technology to extract information from your device that you didn't even know was there. So before your next international trip, think about what's on your phone, review your messages, check your location history, clean up your contacts, make sure your digital life actually matches the story you're telling at the border, because immigration officers aren't guessing anymore, they're reading, and your phone is telling them everything. Hit that like button if this changed how you think about traveling with your phone. Subscribe for more videos that expose the realities of international travel in 2026. And drop a comment if you've ever had your phone checked at a border. I want to hear what happened. Your phone knows everything. Now you know what they're looking for.